Dear learners, welcome to UGC MOOC on Tourism Planning and Sustainable Development. Now, we shall be taking the topic the nature and scope of sustainable tourism. Dear learners, after this topic, you will be in a position to understand the concept of sustainable tourism, to know the principles of sustainable tourism, and to understand the dimensions of sustainable tourism. Sustainable tourism is any type of advancement, change, or tourism movement that regards the earth, saves in the long haul the common and social assets, and is socially and monetarily tough and impartial. It permits the improvement of tourism and diversion exercises in a nation, district, or visitor goal by considering the fundamental standards of sustainable advancement, demonstrating regards for nature, for the general population, and for the economy and the local culture. From an environmental perspective, sustainable tourism alludes to the increase of dependable activities, to the changeless look after the protection of earth, and additionally to the dispersal of the great practice cases in the field. From a social perspective, sustainable tourism alludes to the endeavor to center however much as could be expected around the neighborhood human universe, so as to comprehend the nearby distractions, to acknowledge neighborhood esteems and the profundity of traditions and customs in the individual zones. Sustainable advancement is tied in with finding a remote culture and keeping in mind the end goal to do that visors ought to. Stay inquisitive, however, focus on indigenous habitats, to watch the plants without breaking them, and to watch the creatures without aggregating them, to pick convenience following the criteria of regard for nature, to offer inclination to rustic fundamentals, rustic foundations, and convenience in provincial houses, to regard the way of life of hosts by indicating enthusiasm for their way of life and talked dialect. And before leaving to such a goal, one ought to complete an examination keeping in mind the end goal to recognize that target might be gone by in the territory. When we travel, we ought to embrace a similar life control as in our home, like own consistent condition, as long as it doesn't repudiate neighborhood life rules. Sustainable tourism is thought to be that type of tourism that favors long haul administration of assets in such a way that the financial and social needs be met. Keeping up social uprightness, fundamental biological procedures, biodiversity and essential needs encourage back system. Sustainable tourism items work at neighborhood level in congruity to the earth, the group of nearby societies. Dear learners, let's have a look on principles of sustainable tourism. The target of sustainable tourism development is to execute all territories of sustainable development: environment, economy, social issues. Tourism strategies singularly focusing on the earth can't claim to be sustainable. Functioning regular habitat and scene, and in addition, ecological administration frameworks are requirements for the tourism without bounds, both in country, fringe zones, and in seriously utilized visitor goals. Measures to secure nature and the earth are not systems that forestall monetary pickup, but rather forward looking methodologies for picture fabricating that can even prompt financial development. Legislative measures Intentional impetus and controlling measures bolster territorial points. Tourism approaches without bounds need to go up against natural and social issues of mass tourism, executing authoritative measures, and in addition, deliberate directing and control instruments. Administration frameworks that consider ecological and social factors comprehensively must be produced for and connected in organizations, groups, and locales. Moreover, the estimation of framework and environment measures for local must be checked on. In seriously utilized territories, hoteliers are regularly stood up to with obligation as a result of high rivalry and lessening in overnight remains. The picture of destination is described without anyone else input decided social elements. The point is to painstakingly integrate tourism into local and local culture and not to coordinate culture into tourism. The correct level of tourism power is an essential for transport of genuine culture and self-assurance of social advancement. Moreover, locals should be given the chance to keep their customs for guests, as well as live family culture and ceremonies to the prohibition of outsiders. Great working conditions and social fulfillment of the populace will get quality tourism. Quality in tourism is dictated by nature of administration. Consequently, change of the instruction level of those working in tourism, including tourism basic substance, learning for the setup of a few wellspring of wage, and change of the social assurance of those utilized in the tourism business are of most extreme significance. The high extent of women having occasional joblessness must be considered and requires particular authoritative and deliberate measures. In regard to institutional supportability, the arranging and execution of any measure identified with tourism must include all suggested performers of tourism and recreation strategies. Those politically or authoritatively in charge of tourism, travel offices, associations, those influenced by tourism and customers. Special consideration must be paid to the trademark need to the area. Idea of financial advancement in cohesion can't be connected similarly in a remote, fundamentally and monetarily frivol districts, and ideas from European locales can't similarly be connected in creating nations. Learners, let's have a look of the dimensions of sustainable tourism. There are three essential dimensions of sustainable tourism. Ecological. Ecologically sustainable tourism lowly affect characteristics, assets, especially in secured zones. It limits harm to nature, for example, vegetation, fauna, living species, water, living marine resources, vitality utilized, defilement, and in a perfect world try to profit the earth. Social. Socially, it doesn't hurt the social structure or culture of the society where it is found. Rather, it regards local societies and conventions. It includes partners or stakeholders such as people, groups, destination managers, government organizations in all periods of arranging advancement and checking and instructs partners about their parts. Economic. Economically, it adds to the monetary prosperity of the community, creating sustainable and even handed economic benefit for local people and whatever number different partners as could reasonably be expected. It benefits proprietors, workers, and neighbors. It doesn't just start and after that quickly pass on in view of poor business owners. A tourism undertaking that meets These three standards will do well by doing great. This implies maintaining a tourism business so as to not obliterate normal social or financial assets, yet rather supports a valuation for the very assets that tourism is subject to. A business that is keep running on these three standards can upgrade preservation of regular assets, bring gratefulness to social esteems, carry income into the community, and be productive. By arranging of sustainable tourism, look to expand the local advantage of tourism and limit the local expenses. While as yet remaining financially practical, any such arranging must incorporate every important partner. In particular, it must incorporate the local community and it must incorporate experienced tourism administrators. Furthermore, it ought to incorporate however many different partners as would be prudent. Sustainable tourism and local communities. For local inhabitants, tourism has a financial effect as well as touches their own lives. Tourism influences their ways of life, conventions, and societies, and in addition, their work, not at all like different players in the tourism business. Must local community manage tourism regardless of whether they decide to. Some rustic groups that were once tranquil and quiet are getting themselves attacked by global sightseers. The greater part of who are simply going through and not remaining to meet local inhabitants. Inhabitants have blended responses to the interruptions. Some need nothing to do with sightseers, others are interested by the business opening. Whether their underlying response, local inhabitants are frequently caught off guard for tourism's requests. They regularly can't contend with the capable tourism industry and don't comprehend the wants and conduct of savagely autonomous explorer who need to find new zones. Community individuals assume a basic part in tourism. Opportunity is available for local community. They may assume numerous immediate parts in the tourism business, including renting area for improvement, working as infrequent, low maintenance or full-time staff for private visit administrators, providing administrations for private administrators, for example, sustenance, guides, transportation, lodging, forming joint endeavors with private visit administrator who more often than not gives occasion, coordination and bilingual aids, while the community gives generally benefits. Dear learners, let's summarize the topic. One of the sustainable tourism's most noteworthy commitment is how much it can move tourism's effect on a local community from dangers to benefits. Local inhabitants assume an essential part in sustainable tourism for two principal reasons. Initially, it is their countries and working environments that are pulling in nature explorers. Second, the help of local inhabitants are basic for the achievement of any protection exertions, including sustainable tourism. In extra, local or customary information is frequent a key segment of guest involvement and instruction. The pessimistic ecological, social and social effects of unsustainable tourism improvement have influenced locals, individuals generally intensely. Thank you.